Howdy and hello and welcome back to Mike's Game Domain. This is Mike playing Magic Duels, and we're going to take a look at a couple decks today. Well, we'll just do one deck for this video called Merry Christmas. As you can see, I've been building lots and lots of decks, lots of cool ideas. But today it is the day after Christmas, so we will look at the Merry Christmas deck. I wasn't able to record yesterday, so let's just take a look and then we'll play a couple games with it. So it is a red-green deck, of course, because it's Christmas-themed. We have some cheap red and green spells. The Goblin Arsonist is just an aggressive turn 1 creature that deals an additional damage whenever it dies, which definitely comes in handy for removing early creatures of the opponent or even just giving some extra damage to them. The Jotty Offshoot, so the reason this is in the deck, only one, but I found that in some games I just barely didn't have enough life to, I needed one more turn to win. And so this can sometimes turn the tide in those games by giving you 1 life per landfall. This deck generates a lot of land, so it just kind of turns the tide in some of the games. Blisterpod, another early creature for aggression, 1/1, and it whenever it dies it becomes a 1/1 Scion, so it can be used for mana or just to have an additional 1/1. So very good creature early game. Fiery Impulse to control the tempo of the game, to kill the opponent's early creatures and try to get some card advantage by destroying their early cards. Animist Awakening is actually a cheaper card technically, but it's more of a finisher for me. So if I don't have a ton of lands out, if I'm about halfway through my lands and I have a bunch of landfall triggers, I can do an Animist Awakening, which is X number of cards you reveal. Put all lands among them onto the battlefield tapped, or untapped if you have Spell Mastery. But either way, I'm just looking to trigger those landfall triggers, and so that can result in 5 or 6 landfall triggers, which can easily win a game. Gatecreeper Vine, a way to get extra lands if I'm running dry. Another early game defender as well. Elvish Visionary, just a wonderful card. Draws you an extra card when it enters the battlefield. I'm trying to focus on creatures that do have enter the battlefield triggers because I'm using Flame Shadow Conjuring, which is like one of my favorite cards ever. Whenever you cast a creature, pay 1 red mana and it creates a copy of that creature that has haste. So you get an additional turn to attack with those creatures, but it protects the one that you summon. So if they deal with the temporary one that you conjured, then they still have to deal with the original, and you get both into the battlefield triggers. So for her, if I summon the Visionary, draw a card, and then pay 1 red mana, summons another Visionary, draw a second card. And I do have 2 of these, so I have had games where I have both of them out. So you get 3 Visionaries for, just the value there just starts to add up real good. Rolling Thunder, just a nice way to finish off a bunch of tokens or finish off the opponent. It's 2 red mana plus X, where X is damage divided however I want. Nissa is mainly used as a card draw engine in this deck. She's obviously a really powerful planeswalker across the board, but she does generate mana. She does find me lands, and then she draws me cards. So that's mainly what her purpose is. I guess she could be a finisher as well. She could always be a finisher. Exquisite Firecraft, just a really good value. 4 damage for 3 mana is always going to be in every deck I have as far as red goes, because that's just a really good value there. Nissa's Pilgrimage, an early way to ramp and also ensure that I have enough red and green mana. Usually this deck needs more red mana than green, so a great way to get some mountains onto the playing field. The Curd Chieftain is an excellent staple for red-green decks. It gets +1/+1 as long as you have Forest, which you always will, and you can give +2/+2 and Trample to any creature for 5 mana, including a Forest, which is definitely a game-winning move. A lot of times that trample damage is what ends up winning the game, because you can blow over the enemy's chump blockers and still beat them anyway. Zendikar Incarnate, again, this deck is going to be pulling a ton of lands out of its library, so this guy tends to be around the 8 mark whenever I summon him. He usually ends up being around 13 before he gets killed, so combined with the Flame Shadow Conjuring, that's a pretty brutal combination. Acid Moss is a great way to gain land advantage, so this deck is also seeking to gain land advantage. We're running Acid Moss and Into the Maw, both land destruction spells from red and green. So this one kills a land and gets you a land in the battlefield at the same time, so very good value. I am only running 2. I was running all 4, but I kept having it in too many opening hands, and having to get to 4 mana first before you can trigger this is sometimes a problem. The Naturalists are a great way to deal with artifact and enchantments that are particularly troublesome. They're also just 4/4s, and with Flame Shadow Conjuring you can destroy an artifact and an enchantment, or 2 enchantments, whatever you need to do, which is pretty sweet. Zendikar's Royal, this is a game winner since we are pulling tons of lands out of our deck, and each one that hits the battlefield becomes a 2/2, summons a 2/2 creature token, which is very, very good. Again, I'm only running one. I have more than one of these, but at 5 mana, it's a little tough to get those out on the battlefield before I have all my lands out, because this deck generates so much land so fast that I'll end up getting this out there with only like 6 lands left in the deck, so it doesn't really see a lot of value. Chandra's Ignition, we do have some creatures with really big power, such as a Zendikar Incarnate, and so you can target that creature with this spell, and that creature will deal its damage to all opponents and all other creatures. So it does nuke all of your creatures, but desperate times call for desperate measures, and this may just win you the game anyway by killing the opponent. The Hydra, definitely a good card if we can get it out early enough. At 6 mana it's a little hard, but these landfall triggers do add up, and we do have plenty of forest. Every time a land enters the battlefield it gets counters, 2 counters for forest and 1 counter for mountains. So it does have trample, which is mainly why it's in the deck, because it can blow through a bunch of tokens. Into the Maw of Hell. So this is an excellent card as well, whereas the other one destroys a land and gets me a land. This one destroys a land and destroys a creature. Well, 13 damage to a creature, which can basically kill anything in the game for the most part. It's also just a beautiful card, and I like it. So, 2 of those. Nissa's Renewal, this is a game-winning card as well. You get 7 life back, so if you have a very aggressive opponent, that can buy you a lot of time. Or at least another turn, and you get to put 3 basic lands into the battlefield tapped. So that's going to trigger 3 landfall triggers, which can grow your Hydra +6/+6. It can give you 3 2/2s. It can do all of those things all at once. It's really, really good. It is 6 mana to cast this bad boy, so definitely a late game card. Finally, one of my favorite cards ever, Omnath, Locus of Rage. This is a legendary creature elemental, which whenever landfall hits, you put 5/5 creatures onto the battlefield, and when any elemental dies, you get to deal 3 damage to target creature or player. And one thing I want to point out, these 2/2s are green elemental creatures. So if you have a bunch of green 2/2s on the board and you get Onmoth onto the battlefield, each one of those, whenever it dies, deals 3 damage. So 2/2s dealing 3 damage each upon death. Really, really good. And you combine that with a spell like Chandra's Ignition, you can start to see how this works, where you can destroy your entire board, your entire army, and wipe out all of your 2/2s, and each one of them deals 3 damage to the opponent. So that can basically just win you the game right there. Get back in the deck. So we have 7 mountains, 7 forests, and some trickier stuff here. We've got 2 basic lands to untap, to come in the battlefield untapped, but basically it's just a dual land. Another dual land here, and not a dual land, but another land that has red and green mana possibilities, and typically this comes into play untapped because it says it's tapped unless you control a mountain or forest. We have plenty of mountain or forest, so that's not a problem. This is kind of an interesting inclusion. It gives you generic mana, which is fine, or colorless mana I should say, but mainly I use it to defend against flyers. This deck is very weak to flyers. It doesn't have reach creatures or flying creatures. So these 2 colorless Flop-Thopter tokens with flying that come in the battlefield are very helpful for stopping late game big flyers, especially out of blue. Those Sphinxes are a particular problem with this deck. Alright, so Thicket. I don't love this card, but it is kind of fits the bill. So whenever it hits the battlefield, it's tapped, and you can search for 5 cards to find another basic land, put it on top of your library. So basically you're making sure that your next draw is a land, but I don't like it in this deck because I don't actually want to be drawing land. I'm going to be using spells to get my lands out of the library and into the battlefield. So I want to be drawing big creatures, I want to be drawing, spells. So having the ability to draw lands is actually not very helpful. In fact, I think we're just going to kill this right now because it's super not that helpful. This one does come into play, so we'll get a little bit more red, which is fine. Looming Spires enters the battlefield tapped, and target creature gets first strike and +1/+1. So that's very helpful for tilting a single turn of battle. between two creatures. Also, it can convince your opponent not to block, because if your creature has first strike, they can no longer have a profitable block, and so that'll just buy you an extra turn, essentially. So a couple more of those is definitely not bad. And Evolving Wilds is a way to double trigger landfall, which is the main reason why it's in the deck. It helps you fix red and green mana, but with only two colors, you don't really need that mana fixing. But you lay this down, it is a land, so it hits a landfall trigger, and then you can sacrifice it immediately, search a library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tap. So that's two landfall triggers for one card for one turn, which is really, really good. So that's the deck. Let's save it. And let's go ahead and get into a game. I'll see you in just a second. Alright, welcome back. So we have a live opponent here. We have an Acid Moss, and Exquisite Firecraft, Zendikar Incarnate, a Visionary, and red and green mana, and a colorless mana. So it's not perfect, but this is pretty much everything we want in one place. So I'll take it. We're going to lead off with a Forest, and that way we can put this in the battlefield, untap next turn, and just say go. So we are first to play, which means I actually like to be first to draw with this deck. I find the card advantage to be helpful. I don't have a lot of ways to draw cards, but one of them is the Elvish Visionary, which we do have, which is great. So let's get her on the battlefield. And then we just pulled Anissa's Pilgrimage, which is a ramp spell, which is excellent. So even if we don't find a fourth mana, we can use that to get one to do an Acid Moss and really slow down the opponent. Now they are playing green so far, which means they're probably ramping and killing our land as well, something to be aware of. Looks like green and blue so far. We got the Flame Shadow Conjuring on board, which is awesome. Getting that out early definitely can win you the game, because you're able to use it more and more and more, which is great. Alright, so I think what we're going to do here is just ramp. I don't think this extra 1/1 is really going to make the difference. So we'll grab... oh, it doesn't give you the choice. I was thinking you had the choice. Okay, so that's fine. So we're just going to grab forests. We really need some more mountains, honestly. I don't mind trading here. She's not really useful to me anymore, so we'll either deal the damage or kill the opponent's Visionary. That's fine. No big deal. I have no way of returning creatures to my hand or returning them from the graveyard. So once they're used up with this deck. Alright, excuse me. So here we go. We've got the Timberland Guide. He's going to give himself a 1/1 counter. So it'll be a 2/2 for 2 mana, I believe. If this stupid thing will go away. Yeah, 2/2 for 2. So fine. And looks like we've got blue mana and what is that, a forest? So forest, island, and double. So pretty good mana base for the opponent. They can probably play most of their spells at this point. The Acid Moss isn't great, because I would love to be able to limit them from being able to play one of their colors. But I'm trying to think what would be best. I could get out the Zendikar's Incarnate as a 5/4, which this early in the game is not a bad play. I could also Flame Shadow Conjuring this turn, which is also not a bad play. I actually like that. And then next turn I can Acid Moss and Blister Pot. No. I'm going to wait on the Acid Moss. I think right now having some board presence and pressure is too important. So I could summon the Blister Pod now, but I don't have a mountain to trigger the Flame Shadow Conjuring, which I pretty much always want to do. There's very few cases where I'm okay with just summoning a creature without it, because it is such a powerful spell. Or enchantment, I should say. Alright, let's see what the opponent puts together. They could do quite a few things with 4 mana, 2 blue. If they leave all their mana up, I'll be the most worried, because then they can counter me. Which this doesn't trigger unless it enters the battlefield. So I could cast it, have it be countered, and this wouldn't have a chance to be triggered. So that's something to think about. Alright, our opponent's tanking here. I can't think of how many options they really do have here, but they should probably just attack for 2 and then make a decision, unless they're going to pump themselves. Alright, Animist Awakening for 3. So they're tapped out, which is great for my avoiding counter spells. They didn't get a single land, which is awesome. And we got to see kind of what their deck looks like. Another one of these guys, a hexproof bull, and a pump spell. So it looks like they're pretty much playing green. I don't know what blue's for yet. So far all cards are green. Alright, so we'll hit for 2. It's fine. I'll take it. We could, against a green deck that tries to pump, things like Acid Moss are not really that great because it's probably going to get a ton of mana out anyway. So we could get 2 Zendikar Incarnates out, which is definitely sounding pretty good. Oh no, we couldn't. We need more red mana. Grr. Alright, well, if we go ahead and Acid Moss now, it increases the odds that we'll draw red mana because we're eliminating... Oh, yes! I forgot we can get that. Perfect. That's why we include those dual lands. Since it has mountain and forest on the card, I can pull those out with a card that says, go get a forest. So I can summon this guy and make a copy of him, which sounds great. And yep, and our copy will have haste. I did this main phase 1 so I could use it for attacking purposes. We'll get to deal a damage to it, and if it had died this turn, we would still get the 1/1 Scion token in addition to the other 1/1 Scion token that's hidden beneath this guy right here, which is pretty cool. But basically we just got to do 1 damage, so I'll take it. Evens the race since we're at 18. Alright, so more spells from the opponent here. Looks like they've got 2 of those guys, which is pretty awful. But we can actually wipe out the whole board with this. I think we'll probably save that for later, but that would deal 4 damage to us. Oh no, we couldn't. We could swipe those guys out. Alright, so do we block here? I think we do. The whole point of this creature is to block and generate a Scion token, which can be used for mana. Which I don't think we'll really need, but still. I don't mind using this on the opponent just to deal 4 damage, but it's also a great way to... Ooh, probably going to save that for landfall trigger. Alright, so I could get some tokens on board, since I don't really need a lot more land here. But the Zendikar Incarnate is sounding pretty spicy. The only thing I'm worried about is these guys could kill it with their death triggers. So as long as I don't kill both of them at the same time, we should be good. Because he'll have to do 1 at a time. Oh, he could double block. Yeah, I don't love that. I might just go ahead and kill them first, which kind of sucks to use this now, but... I'm thinking that this is going to be the best play. So I'm going to use this to wipe out these guys. They're going to probably use them on my face. I'll take 4 damage. So I'm basically... Oh, okay, they're killing my Scion. That's fine. It's actually better, because I don't need the mana anyway. So I only had to take 2 there. Should I save this for landfall triggers, or just go ahead and get it on board? I think I'm going to wait. There's nothing worse than having a good landfall trigger set up and no land to use with it. So in case we draw a Royal next turn, we can get 2 2/2s, which sounds pretty good. We are taking more damage than the opponent, but we can always do this for 4, so we're technically kind of winning. I don't know. That's kind of how I look at it. Uh-oh. So that's going to destroy my enchantments. I think I'm only running 2 of those, so I do have an opportunity to get a second one out. But that means that... that stinks. That means that me kind of relying on the double Zendikar Incarnate is not going to work. So we might just get him out anyway. And see if we can wreck some face with him. He won't have haste, unfortunately, and we can't make a duplicate. Ugh, I almost wish we did it last turn. But yeah, those Perilous Mirrors would have just blown the whole thing up anyway. So, if only he had Trample. Man, if he had Trample, that'd be awesome. Alright, well, let's see. We have 1 mana, so you gonna Fog, or what are you gonna do here? I mean, yeah, he's just gonna pass the turn. So Reclamation Sage is a very, very good creature for 3 mana to be able to destroy. Oh, if only this guy, and I had this. So what I can do with this is actually pretty sweet. I can summon Omnath and drop Evolving Wilds and get 2 5/5 tokens out of the whole deal. There's no counter spells up, so I don't really have a lot of fear of this. So that's the whole reason for saving Evolving Wilds for something like this. We'll grab a Mountain. The deck is frozen. Okay, I was going to say, the game froze on me. Not really sure what's going on here. Come on, game. This is a really cool moment. Please don't... There we go. We'll grab a mountain. Alright, so 2 triggers from Omnath. So now we have 15 power, 15 toughness on board against that. Looking pretty good. Unfortunately, they don't have haste, and if I did have the Flame Shadow Conjuring on board, that could have been 2 Omnaths and 4 5/5s, so that is kind of pretty sweet, but wasn't able to pull that off. Alright, so 4/3. So by double blocking, they can kill one of these guys. I think I'm just going to attack with these, and not Omnath. I don't really want to put him at risk if I don't have to. Okay, looks like our opponent gave up here. Omnath is just going to keep summoning more 5/5s, and we could go ahead and burn the enemy or burn a creature, but 4 damage against 3 power means it'd be a little bit of a waste, so I'm going to hang on to that. And we'll summon the other Omnath next turn. So let's see what the AI does here. I'm going to preserve Omnath. Whenever these die, I get to deal 3 damage anyway, which means I can just burn that out of the sky. Okay, so they're not going to kill it. Interesting. So that does mean I could go ahead and kill that, and that would leave him with a 2/2 against all of this. And could I also do the Zendikar Incarnate? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I sure could. Yeah, I kind of like at this point, since we've burned a land, so he's a little bit down on land. We're burning creatures. I kind of like just winning via board state. So our board is pretty hideous compared to his. I understand why this person left, but kind of a chump move. I usually don't leave. It's part of the game, so is just letting your opponent lose. Okay, so that's fine. So Omnath comes back to hand. I don't think it really matters. We can summon Omnath, drop a land, get another 5/5. See how this starts to add up. Now, if I had Animist Awakening and I could pull in like 8 new lands and then just have 8 5/5s, that would be pretty unreal. So I don't want to put Zendikars at risk. Although if I attack all out, it's just game. So that's game. We could keep going with this and have a lot of fun. I've definitely dragged out games against the AI that way, just to make the most ridiculous stuff of all time. But against another human... Oh, I guess we are playing the AI, aren't we? Oh, well. Well, we can still drag it out. Alright, so he's going to... What does that do? Put it on top of its owner's library and scry 1. Okay. So we get to draw the Zendikar Incarnate again. Not really what I wanted, but I guess we'll put it out there. Well, since we are playing an AI, I'm gonna wait one... I'm sorry, I gotta sneeze. Hold on. Oh, excuse me. I'm gonna wait one more turn to kill him, since we're not wasting anybody's time, and see if I can draw one of those really awesome telling time. It's unlikely he'll be able to recover here, but I guess we're giving him a shot. But yeah, I want to see if I can draw an Animist Awakening or Nissa's whatever. No, just one of these. Okay, we'll just end the game. But yeah, you can see this deck is pretty explosive. It basically explodes in lands, and then let's go ahead and just go crazy here. So that's 35 damage coming at you. Yeah, Willie. Sorry, buddy. So anyway, this is the Christmas deck. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll play one more here, and then we'll call it a day here. Alright, so ranked up to 12. That's pretty exciting. Alright, see you in the next game. Alright, so while this is loading, I did just want to take the time to thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoy my videos. I know that I've kind of shifted gears away from Arc and into Magic, but I'll be bouncing all over the place eventually. But yeah, just wanted to thank you for watching. I hope you do enjoy, and if you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and do so you can get updates on more videos that I make, and you can also like this video, which definitely lets me know that you support it. Okay, so 1 red mana and 1 colorless is not going to cut it. We do need some sort of green mana. Oh, that's also not going to cut it. Alright. This is playable. So try to hold off on this if we can. Maybe we can use it to win an early battle with our blister pod. Probably should have gone for the Jotty's offshoot, but I wasn't really paying attention. But yeah, whoops, that's okay. Blister pod's fine too. But yeah, I did want to go ahead and mention that this game, Magic Duels, is free. It's a free game on Steam, on Xbox as well, and probably some other stuff that I'm not aware of. But it's free to play. You get a bunch of cards to start with, and then you can also buy packs if you want to get new cards. Alright, so I think we're just going to sit back one turn. We can defend this way without killing the Arsonist, and then next turn we'll give ourselves first strike and attack, and hopefully be able to surprise the opponent there. I don't really want to use the Animist Awakening with like 3 mana, but if I have to, and there's really nothing else to do, then yeah, that's probably what we'll do. So it looks like we might be playing against a red deck wins style deck, which is an super aggressive red. Yeah, that's what it is. Alright, so I play this deck as well. It's very, very consistent to win. In fact, it's only lost once out of like 50 games. I use it for farming coins because it's really quick. So with that in mind, we're going to have a tough time. We're going to have a tough time with this one. So we can go ahead and attack here, gain a life. Give ourselves +1/+1 in first strike. So if he does block, which he won't, we're going to kill the creature without dying. The reason I say he won't block is because he's a red deck aggressive, which means put as much on the board as you can, don't care about your life total, and just attack the opponent. So let's hope he makes a mistake here and blocks with the Goblin Arsonist. Nope. Okay. So yeah, his deck is designed to just throw up the entire hand on the board with 2 to 3 mana and then just win. It does work. It's a really powerful deck. I don't have a lot of defense against that because this deck kind of like just sort of grows slowly and defends, and then about mid-game just explodes. Once I can destroy lands or, you know, get some of these like mega creatures out there, it's usually over. But I have a feeling that I'll be dead before then. I'm a little surprised to not see main phase 1 action here. Yeah. I don't mind losing the offshoot. I mean, it's not that great, although I'm guessing he has a Titanic Strength that he's holding off on. So if I keep the offshoot, I'll be guaranteeing +1 life plus other life that I get. I think preventing 2 damage here is not as helpful. So I'm expecting... No. I kind of was expecting double Titanic Strength and taking... Oh, nothing. Okay, so the Flamekin, whatever this thing's called, is a problem. Flaring Flamekin. Once it becomes enchanted, it gets +2/+2 and trample, and can be pumped with red mana, so that's not good. That tends to be really excellently not awesome for us. We couldn't kill it because we need more red. We could get our Zendikar Incarnate out as a 4/4, which doesn't sound terrible. But I'm thinking that trying to get as much land as we can early is really important. So let's go ahead and just hope for the best here. 1. Okay, so 1 mana, that's fine. But the good news is that it's red mana, so we can burn his Flamekin next turn if we want to. We could go ahead and sack this for another mana, but I don't really need it. So we're just going to skip and keep it as a defender. Alright, so we're getting close to stabilizing. We're out of cards though, and they have 4 still in hand, so I don't feel super comfortable about this. Alright, so he's going to Inferno Fist the Flamekin, which gives it +2/+2 and trample. So even if I did block with this, I would still take 5 from that. I could kill this, which I think is the best option. Block that. Ooh, do I want to... I'm really enjoying the gaining life, but I'm out of mana, so I'm not really sure He has 2 mana, so he could trigger this anyway. It's the problem with aggressive cards like this, because you're like afraid of, pay 1 card, deals 2 damage to player. So you put off, killing it, but then if you do that, it's going to happen anyway. So you kind of have to just treat this as 4 damage no matter what. If you do it now or later, it's still going to happen. But if I keep this around, I can gain some life, which will mitigate the extra damage. So I think this is maybe the best play here. Considering this is a deck that loves to make land, even though it's not looking that way right now, if I can get a bunch of landfall triggers, that'll save my butt. So yeah, we're probably going to lose. I need to be totally honest about this. It's not looking good. Red deck wins is a tough deck to beat. Alright, so yeah, stuff like this. Whenever this dies, it deals 2 damage. Whenever this dies, it deals 1 damage. And for 1 mana, he can make this deal 2 damage. For 1 mana, he can make this deal 2 damage. So that's already 2, 4, 6 guaranteed, plus a trampler. So yeah, not so great. We will go ahead and kill the Flamekin here. And what should I do first, though? I think I'll give this +1/+1 in first strike, gain a life, and attack. So maybe we can kind of surprise him with the Exquisite Firecraft. Not that it really matters. There's no mana for him to use, so most likely we're just dealing 2 damage here. Yeah, red deck does not care about its life total. That may have been a mistake, because we could have used it for defense. But you do have to win. Like, it's not just about surviving. Alright, so we'll go ahead and just kill this guy, which is definitely a step in the right direction. We have 1 defender, and unfortunately we have a tapped creature, but the totals aren't too bad. So yeah, if we pull this off, I'll be very happy. We need all these cards in our hand right now. Yeah, we're kind of getting stomped here, but it's not too bad. We're not doing too bad. We're actually not doing that bad. This is what, turn 6? Yeah, turn 6 against a red deck wins is really quite good. So we could take 3 here and preserve our offshoot. It's gonna need to die at some point. I could block this, which would force him to sacrifice that, and then I would basically just be up against a Myr, which buys me a good amount of time. I kind of like that, but he's got something up his sleeve here because he's got all this mana untapped. So it's not just it's not just my board versus his board. You have to consider what kind of cards he's playing against. He could give his creature. He could do a lot here. 12, man. Red is so scary. Well, I'm running out of time. I think I'm going to go ahead and block. Yeah. I don't have any land, so it's not really that great to have that. Alright, so what will he do here? I'll drop another land. That's actually good. This deck does not need 5 lands. Well, that's one reason why it does need 5 lands. So every red source that deals a damage deals an additional damage. And it has a toughness of 5, which is incredibly rare for red spells. Red spells are typically big power and small toughness. So I could definitely see pumping this and getting 2 flyers to have blockers. I could also see getting the Zendikar Incarnate out there, because this is what, 5 mana? 6 mana essentially, because it's 5 plus tapping this. So 6 lands have to be tapped. So that's pretty much all of them. I think right now getting a lot of blockers out there is really important, because we don't want anything to get through. Well, we can let the Myr through since it's not red. Only red sources have to be stopped here. We're definitely not attacking. Alright, and then we'll get the Zendikar Incarnate out. Hopefully it can turn the tide. He may be holding Exquisite Firecraft in his hand, which will just burn this up anyway. But, and hopefully I draw something sweet like Omnath or something. I don't know. Alright, so that's not good. So Twin Bolt takes care of 2 1/1s. That limits my blockers again. So I can block both his red spells, but I'm still not loving my situation here. That's still the best play. It's not Trample, is it? Oh god, it is Trample. Okay, did not realize that. Alright, so that thing is ugly. I actually don't have that in my red deck. I don't usually get to 5 mana. I win with about 2 or 3 mana. So it's an interesting play here for a red deck to rely on a 5 mana card. Yeah, I could kill... I mean, I could get a 4/4 on board, and that would kill the artifact, but that would still deal 2 damage to me and put me down to 5. Or I could get the Zendikar Incarnate out, which is basically just going to be a chump blocker at this point, which is crazy. I think this is game over. I think either one of these... I mean, this is technically a 2-for-1, because I can block and... Oh no, it won't kill... I can kill that immediately and then block with it. So that eliminates 2 threats right out of the gate. But that does 2 damage, so... Man, down to 5. So... That's rough, man. Yeah, so even if I block that, it won't die. This will deal 3 damage, and then he can sacrifice it for the 5th damage. So there's really nothing I can do here. Even if I'd summon this, I'd be in the same boat. Yep. So if I block this, yeah, he'll still sack it and deal 2 damage. Well, good game. I wish there was a way to communicate with this person. I'd love to type GG, but unfortunately they don't have any kind of chat implementation. So go down to 2, pays 1, sacrifices. There you go. Good game. Well, red deck wins. Like I said, very tough deck to beat, especially with the card pool that we have. Sometimes blue can out-tempo it with like Royal Spouts and things like that, but even then, I've overrun those decks so many times. It's just a good deck. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. That's going to be the end. I guess we finished with a 1 win and 1 loss. We have a Converge deck, a Merry Christmas deck, an Artifact deck. We have so many decks to look at, tokens, red deck wins. But that was Merry Christmas. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll play again soon. Bye.